welcome to the east side of Pennsylvania. Thanks for coming out. This is episode 16 of the Four Lifters by Lifters podcast. I feel like there was quite a bit of begging to get you over here, finally. But we've been sponsoring you for what, maybe a year and a half now? Year?
Something like that, yeah.
Which is pretty cool. I mean, when I originally reached out to Teeters, he's like my central Pennsylvania contact for out there. Him and I are pretty close. And I asked him about you, and he was like, listen, he goes, this guy's either going to set an all-time world record or break his back trying to do it. And he's like, I think he's going to do it. And then he told me you're 25 now. I think you were 23 when we initially started talking. And he told me you're 23. I'm like, holy shit, like this kid's insane. What got you into powerlifting? Like, how'd that start?
I think it was a kind of weird mix of things. So I was always a big athlete. I did track and did some baseball, football. I tried to wrestle a little bit. It wasn't my thing, but I tried a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Mainly football. When I got to my, I'm going to say, junior year of football, I think it was more of a, I was pretty heavy, and then I lost a lot of weight in 1 year.
What's pretty heavy?
Well, I mean, when I was like a junior in high school, I was probably like 260, but not like a great 260.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, a little sloppy.
Yeah. And then I think I was like 220 by the end of the season.
Okay.
So I got real slim, started looking better. It's probably more of like I just wanted to look better
What
kind of
position
thing.
were you?
Defensive end, middle linebacker, and then on offense, pulling guard and tight end.
So for tight end, it would help to be thinner.
Yeah.
But for the other positions, you could be meaty, so you didn't have to diet down for that, right?
Yeah.
You just wanted to.
Yeah. And then actually, we talked about Smith. He plays a part in here. I had a couple buddies, a guy that nobody really sees a lot of. His name was Logan Lomen, and we were always real close. He had a really big bench, like close to 500 pounds when I was in high school. And it didn't matter what I did, and he'd always end up trying to talk me into dragging me to the gym. And this dude drove through like 4 feet of snow one time in his Duramax to come picking me up, just take me to the gym. And so he played a part in it. He got me to lift him a little bit more. And then Smith messaged me one day, or somehow we started talking. And he pulled me in East Coast. And as soon as he pulled me in East Coast, it was like done. Like
Yeah.
I loved it. And then I got hooked on it.
Yeah, it's a cool gym over there. It was a good atmosphere in the basement that they had. I don't know if anybody still lifts there anymore.
Handful of people.
Yeah, but they it's just such like an old school, and everybody's crammed together, so you kind of have to work with everybody in that little room.
It is a small room.
Yeah. So it was cool. It was cool being
It's
down
just,
there.
when it was like me, Smith, Teeters, Nick, Subco, Nom, we were
And,
all in there at the same
Leyland,
time. Yeah,
yeah.
Carrie.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you guys are some big dudes.
Mhm.
So you started lifting at East Coast, and did you compete like right away? Did you?
I want to say I actually did my first meet when I was a senior in high school.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I did my senior year in high school. And it was like, I can't even think of what the federation was. USAPA or something like that, like some kind of high school federation. And I think it was in Philly.
Okay.
It might have been in Philly. And it was like, well, what made it funny was I was probably about 250 maybe, something like that. And I didn't have a singlet, so I had to borrow a singlet from my buddy, and it was pink.
Yeah.
I wore this pink singlet, and we went to this. They had to meet at a school. Well, here it was like one of those schools where the kids aren't allowed to leave because they're bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I know what school you're talking about.
Yeah, it was. I went in there and I won my weight class. I think I pulled 700. It was like the first time I pulled 700.
And you're in high school?
Yeah, I was a senior in high school. So I went in and like deadlifted 700 pounds in a pink singlet in front of all these kids, and I literally thought I was going to get stabbed before I left, but we made it alive. So
Yeah. When I was at Penn State, we used to compete against the guys in jail. Did you ever hear about that?
No.
No. So you know how there's like a federal penitentiary up there or something? You know what I'm talking about? Right outside State College.
Yeah.
So the one guy that I guess ran the security or whatever, he was a USAPL powerlifter, and he was tied in with the federation, and Penn State Powerlifting's USAPL, and so the team, and it had to be all men, they wouldn't let women in, would have to get clearance, and then they would compete against the guys in jail. And I think it was a good atmosphere because a lot of kids were pretty soft back then, and like some kids were just afraid of like these guys in jail.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's gonna stab you. Like nothing's gonna happen. Like this is their fun. They're not gonna ruin that. But yeah, it was probably a good experience for you. So where'd you take it after that meet?
I think the next one I did with Leland and Nick and who else is there? Someone is there. Eddie. You remember what's Eddie's last name?
I think I know of who you're talking about. I think he's a shorter guy.
Perrin? No.
Oh yeah. He moved out to like Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was there, and then Tyler News.
Don't know him.
Tyler News was there, and it was RPS Raw Dogs in like 2000. Oh man, maybe like 2014.
Okay.
Yeah, like I think I had just got a regular singlet or something like that, and I still didn't have like no knee sleeves, no wrist knee wraps.
Yeah.
Like a bare knee squatted like 620 or 630. I think I benched 405 and pulled 750.
Yeah, it's a pretty good meet for a
Something
19-year-old.
like that. I was like 19. Yeah. I think it was 260. I think body weight that one.
Yeah. What? I mean, how were you training back then?
Stupid, super stupid. Yeah, just go in and do whatever I felt like doing. Go heavy all the time.
But were you doing like a squat day, a bench day, deadlift day, and then like maybe something
My training
else?
was very unorganized when I was 19 years old. It was. I think I only benched one time a week. I think I did everything one time a week, but it was like just heavy and like unnecessary. Yeah.
I feel like when you're young, you can get away with that just because the
Somewhat,
stimulus, like you keep growing, your body repairs faster, and then eventually you hit a wall, which I'm sure you did, and then you had to change your training and change the way you're doing things. You probably got hurt. Some type of like milestone happened, and you had to pivot. So what'd you do when you hit your wall?
Well, I can't say that I ever hit a huge wall. Maybe on probably squat and bench was the longest. Naturally, I think I'm just a good deadlifter because it took a period of time to go through the 7s and the 8s and to get the 9, but it felt like as soon as I broke 7, I was in the 7s. But then as soon as I broke that 800 barrier, then I was in the 8s.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen as fast as I'd like to in the 9s yet, but
yeah. Well, what's your best so far?
Deadlift?
Yeah.
945 in the gym with straps.
Okay.
And then in a meet, 915.
Okay. And that's like the deadlift bar, the whole 9 at the meet.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you think that makes a big difference when you're pulling?
I think a lot of it has to do with the bar for me. Like in the gym, like the Texas bar I train with, there's a lot of whips. So I feel like once the whip's out, it puts me in a better position. But if I pull on a stiffer bar, then I feel like it makes me kind of round over faster.
Okay, because your shoulders are more forward, so you're not as upright when the bar breaks the ground. Yeah. It's always funny like how people go back and forth. So you have like what I call like I guess Donnie Thompson would call them the poppies, right? And that's like the USAPL group. The drug tested lifters. Everything's very methodical and calculated. And Mike Teixeira, do you know who that is? No. So he was like the first one, at least of popular culture, that would hook up the device to measure his bar speed. So he could, and I started thinking of Rocky when he's fighting the Russian guy, and they have all the stuff hooked up to him, and like, is it too much? Like, do you really need to do all that stuff? And then you have like the other side, which is okay with PEDs. If you're close enough on depth, it's a pretty good squat, and everybody's kind of happy. But one thing I always hear is like, and Colin's doing a good job with it, but they kind of complain like, okay, that guy deadlifted 900 pounds, but it's on a deadlift bar. Right. I mean, you probably
mean like USPA compared to like
USAPL. Yeah, like the two comparisons. But I feel like that's 900 pounds on a deadlift bar is probably still what, like 850 on a stiff bar.
I don't know. I think that's personal.
Yeah.
I know guys that can pull better on a stiff bar.
Really?
I just think it depends on your build and what position it puts you in.
True. I guess if you can get it off the ground easier with a stiff bar, maybe it could be beneficial, like sumo.
And you're not going to have the whip out at the end of the bar either.
Yeah. How do you train now for trying to build your deadlift? So you're at 915 in a meet, and the all-time world record's
939.
939. That's what you tried to go for when your hand ripped, right?
Yeah, I tried it March of 19.
Okay.
Yeah, I tried 941. I got to my knees and ripped calluses,
Yeah.
which I was skeptical because I opened up with 881 and I had a tiny tear on the one, and it didn't really start to bleed yet, but it seemed opening up, and I was kind of worried about it.
Yeah.
Well, then actually, when I tried to pull 941, the side that didn't have any tears is one that tore.
Maybe you overcompensated.
Maybe,
like you knew,
yeah.
like in the back of your head, that this is the hand that's ripping on me. Let me use the other one and see
Mm-hmm.
what happens. You ever try super glue?
No, I've never tried super glue.
It works.
It works.
Yeah, if your calluses are tearing off, you just super glue them back on.
No,
Yeah.
never tried it.
Next time.
Next time.
So, how are you training now? I mean, you that's what you care about the most, right? The deadlift record.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the beginning, yes, but there's a part of me that wants to show everybody and prove that I'm not just a deadlift specialist. You know what I mean? It's totaled 2230 in July, which was a big PR on total.
Yeah.
I hit a small PR on squat, but my squat's coming around. I think I'll be squatting 9 here within the next year.
Okay. And that's with knee wraps?
Yeah, reps. Yeah. Yep.
Do you prefer squatting and knee wraps?
I want to say yes because it's what I'm better at, but I'm not against competing in sleeves sometime.
Okay.
I think I'd like to have a total in both.
Do you train in both?
Yeah, off season, like a lot of off season trainings in sleeves.
Okay.
I try to build that up. So sleeves is harder for me. So I do a lot of training in them, a lot of volume, stuff like that, to try to carry over. If I build up my leg strength and then get the benefits out of the wraps, then that should carry over, and
Yeah.
I'm going to be a bigger squat on meet day.
I've always found that, raw lifting like that will carry over better with wraps if you know how to use them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I find that when you wrap your knees, you sit back a little bit further, you're using your posterior chain a little bit more. Your hamstring dominant instead of quad dominant, so it's just loading a bigger, stronger muscle. But it can also be beneficial for people that want to compete in sleeves. It can be a form of overloading, and I feel like that's something that a lot of people miss out on. Maybe because the stigma of it being gear. Not sure, but do you ever lift in briefs or anything like that?
No.
No interest in gear whatsoever?
I actually have a deadlift suit, but I have yet to even put a leg in it.
Well, I mean, you bought it for a reason. What was the reason?
Yeah, I'd like to pull 1,000. I don't know how I'm going to react to this suit. I don't know if it's going to give me or if it's going to hurt me. I haven't practiced in it. Like I said, I haven't tried it on yet. But it's got its time and its place right now. Right now, I'm trying to build up that total. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if I take, 6 months just to learn to perfect the suit, then that was 6 months I wasted that I could have been, the bigger the total, the better for me sooner.
It's funny you bring that up. My biggest, I think, failure in powerlifting when I was younger, even younger than you, is I competed in single ply. When I was at Penn State, the only way to compete was in single ply USAPL. That was the route that you went down. I lost muscle mass doing that because you're training the lift more than you are the muscle group. But aside from that, it took me 9 months to learn my bench jerk, and right before the meet, I got my first full lift. Like it was just too much time.
Takes a lot of time.
Yeah. And you're not training. You're just trying to learn the technique of the shirt. And I absolutely hated it. And if I could go back, like I would take those 2 years and just lift mostly raw, maybe in like briefs. I do think briefs save your hips. So if you ever see somebody with a loose pair that's getting rid of them, I would suggest picking them up. I have bad hips now. I'm 5-6 years older than you are. So I wish I would have spent more time in briefs, but I don't even think bench shirts should exist. I think they're a waste of time. And deadlift suits, I think it depends on like how you pull. Mm-hmm. I really do. And I don't know how much, if you're already at 900, 950, I don't know how much more you could possibly get out of a suit. For me, it always pulled my hips out of position. And, the most I ever got out of it was 5 pounds. So like my raw lift was, not very good, but my single ply lift was only 5 pounds higher than that. So for me, it wasn't even worth it. You end up with cuts and stuff in your legs for no reason. But, to each their own. Have you thought about doing like the figure 8 straps and all that stuff like the strongmen do?
I don't really have an interest in doing a strongman event like that, no. But honestly, all I bought the suit for was to maybe pull 1,000 faster, or maybe get that overload out of it.
Okay.
You know, if I could pull 1,000 in a suit, maybe I could pull 20 pounds more raw.
Okay. So same technique as like the knee wraps. You know,
Kind
in
of
the
like an
back of your
overload.
mind. Yeah. I know. I mean, it would still be cool to see a single ply like with the figure 8 straps and everything, because that's how the strongmen do it. And now they're doing like Thor just did that deadlift only thing just so he could break the record.
Yeah.
And how much was that? Do you know?
It was 1101 or something like that.
Okay, so that's a little ways away. So it's not something where you could just throw the suit on and try to compete with them guys. But it would still be
Well,
cool.
Thor is also 6'9", like 430 pounds.
I mean, don't downplay how big you are, though.
I'm like over 100 pounds less body weight.
Still a big dude. All right, so let's talk about squat training a little bit. You know, you kind of alluded to that being a little bit of your weak point, and that's something that you're trying to progress. What are you doing to try to get that higher?
Right now, it's just a lot of bar variations in volume. In my opinion, it takes at least 4 weeks of something new to carry over in your training, or it's benefiting you in some kind of way. So right now I'm doing I just finished up 4 or 5 weeks of camber bar squats. You know, I'm doing 8s, 5s, triples, and then I'll switch bars. So now I'm going to switch over to the SSB. And a lot of this has to do with my shoulders too. So my right shoulder, if you ever watch my bench, my right arm lags a lot. And that's because I snap my wrist in 2 pieces and I have no mobility. So since I don't have the mobility in my wrist, if I get under a heavy press, my shoulder tries to take over.
How'd you snap it up?
I was very irresponsible on a racing fooler when I was 20.
In a racing what?
On a racing fooler. I had a quad. Went to the track. Yeah.
Is that what you call them?
What's
a
that?
Racing fooler?
Fooler.
Oh, four-wheeler. It's funny. Like State College is it's smack in the middle of like Pittsburgh and Philly, and most of my friends when I went to Penn State were from Pittsburgh, and they called things like stuff that I never even understand.
Completely different.
Yeah, like a shopping cart is a buggy, and a rubber band is a gum band. I'm like, dude, you're speaking another language right now.
Yeah.
And but you just kind of merge all them words together, so I wasn't sure. But yeah, I mean, yeah. So you snap that up. I've always been a big you don't train conjugate at all, right?
No.
But maybe some principles here and there.
I don't think of anything even close, honestly.
No.
Maybe like a bench block here and there. I'll use reverse bands. This is about the closest thing to a band. You know what I mean? Just getting those overloads. But pretty much all my training's raw, 100%. Like I don't really use chains. I don't use anything like that.
No variable resistance whatsoever.
No.
Okay. So I ran conjugate for like the last year and a half of college, but the only way I could conceptualize it was to do it in 4-week blocks, because every time I switched a variation, I needed time to get good at it. I didn't want to floor press and not floor press again for 8 weeks and just feel like I'm doing it again for the first time.
Yep.
It never made sense to me to have that much variation. And I'm sure that, some of the guys that are really proficient in that training could explain that to me. But for me, I didn't have anybody that I could ask. I read the books and everything, and it still didn't make sense. So I've always found that 4-week blocks, because your first week is like an accumulation, like you're just getting used to the bar. The second week, you have something to beat, and then you start setting goals after that second week. Okay, I'm going to hit this my third week, and my fourth week, I'm going to make sure I hit this. And then I'm sure that's what you're doing when you transfer over to the safety squat bar, is you're going to do that, right? Like you're going to have your first week and then try to progress.
Yeah. Yep. Almost everything that I do, and it's the most simple thing, and people bash on this, but just linear progression. That has been my training since day one, and it has gotten me this far. And until it completely stops working, I'm going to continue to do it.
Yeah.
And I get messages from some people, and they're like, "Oh, you should try this and that and this and that." And I'm like, "Listen, what I'm doing right now has worked, and until it stops, that's what I'm going to keep doing, whether the public likes to see it or not. That's just how it is."
Do you get messages from people that aren't as strong as you telling you what to do?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, 100%.
That's awesome. They've never been through what you're doing. Yeah, so it's interesting because a lot of the conjugate lifters, they're like, when Donnie set the 3,000 record, I think he was 44 46. Like he was older, and a lot of these guys are lifting all the way until older age. I don't see as many raw lifters. I don't see as many people that do straight weight like you do lifting as long. And maybe I'm sure they're out there, but I just don't see it. So the part of me that wants to migrate towards conjugate is in the health part, the health on the joints, right? Squatting to a box is probably better for your hips over a long period of time than free squatting. Whether the variable resistance implemented or not, maybe that doesn't matter. And then having a day where you're at 50 to 60% load with a band or something, maybe that's easier on the hips. And so it's just hard to figure out if you need to progress for you start at 19ish, and if you need to progress to say 30 to hit that all-time world record, to me, looking at a program would really come down to what's going to keep me healthy to get there. Like that over time you're going to add 10 pounds a year to your deadlift. So how do you do it and stay healthy? And I think that's like the hardest part in picking a program. So
yeah, so I do, for the most part, I do all my own stuff, like all my own training, but I've mixed things up and tried different things for so many years now, or just another few years I've been in it, that I just know what is gonna fatigue me from session to session, what's gonna keep me fresh, and literally I just base everything is around staying fresh for the next time I go in. Like deadlifts, I know I can't pull 2 weeks in a row heavy. Like I only pull heavy every 10 to 14 days.
Right.
And the middle day has to be something light, like something stupid light.
And you learned that the hard way?
Well, I mean, it just makes sense. Yeah,
it
for sure. I've definitely went into the deadlift sessions and my lower back felt like it was going to split in two pieces.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh well, I probably shouldn't be lifting heavy this early yet.
Yeah, or deadlifting a day after squatting. Like some things just don't really make sense.
Yep. I try to squat first, put bench in the middle, deadlift at the end of the week.
Okay. Now, another thing that's pretty, I keep mentioning Donnie. I like him a lot. If you should follow him on Instagram. Mm-hmm. He's phenomenal. But one thing he always talks about is how the best way to build your deadlift is through building your squat. Mm-hmm. And he's not a big proponent of deadlifting year round, but you pull for the most part year round, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
In some way, yeah. Like right now, I even changed it up. I've been pulled stiff bar lately. I'm gonna do like 4 weeks of stiff bar.
What's the method? What's the idea behind that?
It's just a lot of hamstrings. I think it's a lot more hamstrings for me.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you're still full pulling from the ground, right? You're not doing like a stiff leg or an RDL or anything like that.
Say like my best set of 10 is like either 675 or 700. I can take a couple pounds less than that on a stiff bar and make it harder. You know what I mean? If it's making it harder, then when I go back to a regular deadlift bar, then it should be easier, right? In theory.
Yeah.
So I'm taking 4 weeks of stiff bar, getting some work in, and then I'll go from there. I'll go back to deadlift bar and just do deadlift bar volume.
Yeah, it's funny just the way you think. Like everything makes sense. Like it has a pragmatism to it. Mm-hmm. A lot of times when people go in the gym, they want to do things that are the easiest, and you're trying to figure out what's the hardest.
Oh, I was guilty of that for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
I went and did whatever I want to, but
you want to show off a little bit.
Knock on wood. Actually, sometimes that helped me a little bit, only because I think just a decent lifter and got away with it is all it was. But
yeah, and you got healthy. I think people talk about genetics and bodybuilding, and you can only get so far if you don't have superior genetics. I think it goes the same way for powerlifting too, but I think it's more related to injury. Mm-hmm. Like certain body types and structures, I think, are more prone to injury. A guy who's played sports all his life, your body has focused on like mobility and strength, and even like the little tendons and small ligaments and stuff. All of that stuff is strengthened because you've been active your entire life. And then you take somebody who's they were in the basement playing Call of Duty their whole life, and then they come out and they want to start being a power lifter. I just don't feel like they have the same structural capacity. They're not going to be able to handle that kind of weight.
I agree with that, because I know guys that, or actually I think any person, any guy in powerlifting right now that has a huge total and hasn't been injured better be knocking on wood, because they're super, super lucky, and I am 100% grateful that I haven't had any injuries, because I know some guys that should be super strong, they pick up a bar and they tear a hamstring. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any sense to me, but that makes you realize that, like, hey, like, really, really lucky that I'm in a position that I am.
Yeah. Well, at least you recognize it now, and you're doing, your training program, whatever else you're doing for recovery is kind of revolving around like, I might get hurt, let's not get hurt, right? So at least you're thinking about it. I never even thought about it. So I had a really bad deadlift. I had a good squat, a pretty good bench, and I had a really bad deadlift. So I was the opposite of you. And I tried to train my deadlift twice a week, and I did that for 6 months, and it put 5 pounds on my deadlift. It was a complete
Wasn't
waste.
worth it.
No,
yeah,
complete
and you might have
waste
got
of time.
10 from doing less.
I couldn't. So right after college, I moved out to California, and I couldn't walk for 6 months because my hips were just shot. I was pulling sumo, and I'm not.
Well, that's your first problem.
Oh yeah, I know. It didn't help at all. But in single ply, I thought like maybe it'll be more like my squat. It wasn't. It was a huge mistake, and I never pulled anything good. But the kid that beat me pulled like 804, I think, and my top pull was like 560 something.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I beat him on squat. I beat him on bench by 100 pounds. So after subtotal, I went in, ahead of him. He pulled his opener. That was it. He didn't need to pull any other lifts.
Yeah, it's done.
Yeah. So yeah, you know him, Ian Bell?
No.
No, he's a 198er, and he pulled. Yeah, I think he pulled like 804 or something. But he does like the Arnold Classic, USAPL venues and stuff like that. So. Man, we were just talking. Oh yeah, speaking of Arnold Classic, how was Animal Cage?
Animal Cage was probably one of the coolest things I've ever done.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
I don't even think it was so much the event; it was the people. Like some of these people on social media, their Instagram, Facebook, whatever, portrays them as like a completely different person as they are in person.
I feel like it's all the time.
Some of these dudes, I thought like, oh, that guy's probably a dick. You know what I mean? Like, fuck that guy. And then I meet him in person, and he's the first one to shake my hand and like welcome me in.
Yeah.
And it opens your eyes completely. So I think it was definitely the atmosphere and the people. Like everyone in the cage was awesome. I talked to everybody, made a lot of friends. You know, everybody was really cool.
You probably, that was what, 2 years ago, year and a half ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were 23.
Yep.
You probably commanded a lot of respect just walking in there at 23 years old and doing a pause deadlift at 900 pounds. So I imagine, people are going to be friendly towards you.
Yeah, I think the atmosphere must have had something to do with that pause because I don't think I've been that strong since then.
Yeah, well, that's another thing that, I always bring up when people start talking about, like, Westside Barbell and East Coast, right? Like, just the atmosphere itself. Like, it
makes the difference 100%.
If you could lift with Teeters, Nick, Nam, Leyland, and the other guys that you were talking about all the time, you'd probably be at 940 on your deadlift.
I try to take this into perspective sometimes, but I know people preach like how do they say it? You're only as good as an athlete as your training partners.
Yeah.
I don't have any.
Yeah.
Like my day-to-day routine, unless I travel to lift with, Nick and Huntington or some of the other dudes, I'm by myself. Like all I have is a couple of my guys that I know that give me a spot on bench or something. You know what I mean? Like if I'm 22-30, like by myself, like sometimes I think like, well, how much further would I be right now if I had a crew every day?
Yeah, but it might also influence you to do dumb stuff, right? Like,
well, I think I'm past that point. Yeah.
We're never past it, Just like the quad thing. You don't think if you jumped on one and your friends are racing around that you're going to try to keep up?
I got a few good years on me since then. Beneficial years.
Yeah. But, let's say you're training like a 2-rep or something and, Nick's pulling, you're going to pull for more than all of them. But, you might want to try to hit something, maybe 5-10 pounds more than you should have. And I feel like that's always when injuries occur. So
you mean like little competitions?
Yeah. Because that's what drives you to be better, but at the same time, it drives injury as well. So, yeah, I think being able to lift in the animal cage is like every powerlifter's goal.
I was supposed to go again, then the COVID thing.
Yeah. Are you going to go this year if they have it?
It's always like a last minute thing. Like I'll always get the heads up maybe like 10 weeks out or something like that. Yeah.
Where are you as far as like rankings on the deadlift?
Number 1 in America. I have the American record with 915.
So you beat the other guy? What was that? Kaler?
No. Steve Johnson had the All-American record at 909. Okay. And then I took it maybe like a couple months later with 915. I'm trying to think. You could find it on Open Powerlifting. I think I'm right. Yeah, I'd be second. I'd be right below him. I think, in 308s.
Below who?
KK.
Okay.
He has the 939. It's the all-time world record.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just crazy to even.
I mean, we can look and correct me if I'm wrong. You know, I'm not making assumptions, but
I mean, we'll look it up and put a little thing in the video so that way
right.
people know where your rankings at. So you said you're trying to squat 900 or squat 900 too, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna come. It's coming. Yeah, I tried 880 in my meet in July, and I mean, it didn't feel any heavier than my second attempt, but I rushed the setup, and my feet were pretty close together. So once I got to the hole, I was in a bad position, so I just let it go. Had him take it.
I hate squatting on that carpet. You know,
Yeah, it's different.
There's nothing safe about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know how the multiply guys do it with their feet all the way out.
Yeah.
Like I would just think that it's gonna slide out. You know, there's just baby powder on the platform and chalk and all that crap. You know, dirt.
Squat shoes probably saved their lives.
Yeah, I guess. Like I don't know if chucks are like that. You know, sticky to be able to hold them on. So, what is your best bench?
I've benched 5 even in the gym, probably 2 to 3 times now.
Okay.
But in a meet, it's 479.
So maybe your bench is. You think you're.
Yes, my bench needs work.
I mean, your bench is higher than mine, so it's hard to be like, yeah, your bench sucks.
I basically have a poverty bench for 308s.
Yeah. Well, you know, a lot of them guys, they're probably not as tall as you in 308s. They're filled out as far as like roundness. You know, they're probably not as lean as you. I mean, there's a couple guys that are, but you know, I feel like when you start getting in 308s and super heavies, like you know, them guys are bowling balls.
Mm-hmm.
Like even Dave Hoff at. You know, I think he's 5'9", 5'10" at best.
I do take a lot of pride in that. I'm no like 15% body fat, but I'm probably one of the leanest 308s in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, it compromises your bench rest, right? Because your leverages are going to be different.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I like to be strong, but I want to look like I lift weights too.
Yeah. What made you go into powerlifting instead of bodybuilding? Like, you ever think about going that route when you were younger?
I think it's just because I thought I had potential just to be good in general, but I never had any idea that I would be this far.
Okay.
When I broke the All-American record, I didn't even know. Yeah, that tells you right there.
Did they count it? Because I think you have to like tell the judges ahead of time, right?
Yeah, they counted it.
Oh,
yeah, I mean, it's on Open Powerlifting and everything. I mean, it's official.
Yeah.
But I didn't even know. Like, I went up and pulled it, and I was like, oh, you know, hell yeah. I just pulled over 900 pounds. But so my goal was to pull 900, but my second attempt moved so fast, I just said, I'm just going to pull 9. I picked 915 as just a number. I didn't pick it to break any record. I just picked it, and I'm like, that's what I'm going to pull. And I pulled it, and then I found out later. I'm like, oh, shit. Like, I just broke the All-American deadlift record.
Was everybody, like, either ridiculously loud or, like, dead silent when you pulled it?
No, they were cheering.
They were cheering?
Yeah, a couple buddies there, and then I knew some people there, so I think everybody in general just got, like, riled up with them. Like, they started, and then everybody followed.
Yeah. When people see, like, all-time world records, especially, you know, I go to a decent amount of local meets and some bigger ones, but, like, nobody pulls 900. You know, you might see like a 750 deadlift at best. So to see somebody pull 900, that's like a, you know, once every decade type thing. So, you know, you're that guy.
I'm that guy.
What are you doing to help build your bench?
Right now I'm doing a lot of volume, adding more bench days. I was benching 3 times a week for the last couple of weeks. Now I think I'm gonna back down to 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
3's a lot.
Yeah, adding in some speed work and just trying to chip away at the triceps. I think it's a big thing for me. I need to build up my triceps. I got long arms and a wide back, so I can really load the bench hard at the bottom.
Yeah.
All the time. I blow it off my chest every time, but I get like halfway, 3/4 of the way, and then that's where I slow down at.
Do you do any like partial range of motion stuff, like board presses? You know.
Boards sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes.
Yep.
And you'll do your progression, like your 4-week progressions with it. What about floor pressing?
No, I'm not a really big floor presser.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is it because you're not good at it, or is it because you don't think it has any carryover?
You know what? I might still be guilty of this. I think it's because I don't like to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Now you have your next 4-week block.
Exactly.
What about like accessory movements? Do you think there's anything that has any carryover, like dips, you know, dumbbell pressing, barbell pressing?
I can't do dips. Dips destroy my shoulders.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've even heard of other coaches saying that they can only give certain athletes dips because some it'll make them, some it'll break them. That actually come from Josh Bryant. That's where.
Okay.
I watched the video of Josh
Jailhouse
Bryant.
Guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's an insane bench coach. Yeah.
Yeah. I've always found, like, for me personally, if I can do like good weighted dips for a good amount of volume, I don't even need to know, and I know where my bench is. I don't have to test it. Like I know it's going to be at this point.
Yeah.
So it's one of those movements for me. If I'm good at it, like I know it's helping me with the bench press. But if you can't do it, you know, you can't do it.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I can lay down like 40 dips in a set, but I'm toast for weeks afterwards.
My sternum separates, so the next day when I wake up, like it feels like a car is sitting on my chest, and then it takes me like another day to recover from it. So
Yeah, dude, dips tear me up something awful.
yeah. What if you had to pick like variations or accessory work for like the big three, what would you think has the best? Like if somebody's watching and they're, you know, a 400-pound squatter, 300-pound bencher, maybe a 500-pound deadlifter, you know, so they're in the early intermediate stages. You know, is there anything that you think is like law, you know, that they should be doing to help build that stuff up?
I think a lot of it, you just have to find what works for you. But I'll tell you, my favorite accessories for a squat and deadlift are straight legs, dumbbell or barbell. I stand on a plate to get the extra stretch. I do a lot of leg extensions, like 4x25s. I'll do like 100 of them.
4x25?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, well, she hates me because I make her do 4x25 lat pull downs. Everything for me is super high volume. I just think, you know, you get bigger, you get stronger.
But even bodybuilders don't train at 25s.
I love the blood flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see, straight legs, do a lot of leg extensions. I do a close stance, leg press. Do a lot of those after I deadlift. Just get the extra blood flow.
Yeah, in your quads.
Leg curls. And I would say back raises or back extensions, whatever you want to call them. Do a lot of those.
They're my favorite. I've anytime somebody preps for a meet or if I'm helping them program, I always put them in twice a week, and I put them in banded. I just think that if you have strong erectors, if the muscle going down your spine is strong, then you're going to be able to stay in the right position when you're squatting, and you're going to be able to stay in the right position when you're deadlifting.
Yeah.
And positioning is everything. If you start a deadlift like this, you know, you're obviously not going to be able to finish it. Yeah, and you're going to get stuck. You can't finish a lift if you're starting with a rounded back, especially if you're going for a PR or something big. And the same thing with squatting. If your back can't stay erect, that bar is going to go forwards. You're going to end up in that same position, and your hips are going to shoot up, and you're going to have to good morning that thing, and that's the only hope that you have.
I've done those different ways. I've done them banded. I've held like 45-pound plates and done them and stuff like that. Just mix it up.
You have any preference? You think one works?
Not really, honestly.
Man, I swear by banded.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about glue ham raises? Do you do any of them?
Yeah. I think I get in phases with those. I'll do those for a while, and then I'll kind of slack off on them, then I'll get back into them.
They're hard.
Yeah.
They are. We bought the one with the rotating pads over there, and I got a really good deal on it. It's the Powerlift brand, which I like a lot for their equipment. And we bought it. I used it for the first 3 weeks. I haven't touched it since. I used the lean on after the leg press.
Yeah.
That's about it. So I definitely go in phases with that stuff too. What about like recovery? Like, what are you doing for recovery as far as like food, stretching, mobility, like that kind of stuff?
Can't say I do a whole lot of stretching after, but I like my warm-ups. I over-exaggerate my warm-ups.
Okay.
Recovery, I can't say that I really like, other than taking a day off, that I do anything specific for it.
So, like, if you have a hard training session, you're not making sure you eat?
Oh, I eat a lot no matter what. Every day, I'm pounding food.
Okay. So but, that's your recovery?
I feel like my lifestyle is a little bit different than most big lifters in, maybe my category. Because, maybe they're just training and maybe just doing their life stuff, but like I have other hobbies that I like to do, like no matter if I'm in prep or not.
Yeah.
And like hunting, I hike constantly. I drag her through the woods all the time.
But that could be a form of active recovery.
Yeah.
And you
don't
have
thought
to
thought about that, yeah.
And you don't have to think about it because it's something you'd be doing either
something
way.
I love to do. I hike.
Yeah. I think that's great.
All
I think
the time.
The more people move, the more blood flow you're getting in, it just makes sense. You don't like it as much?
Sometimes.
But yeah, I see you hunt a lot too.
Yeah.
Has that been something that you do since you were a kid?
Oh, I live for it.
Yeah.
If I had to be honest, I would probably rather hunt than lift.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
By any chance, Paul Kemper? No, he was a younger guy. I think he's close to your age, but he was at Penn State when I was graduating. I think he was coming in as a freshman, and he's a photographer and videographer for a hunting magazine. So they moved him out to like Montana, and he'll go on like a couple week like trips just out in the woods with people to get these photos of hunters and animals and all this stuff. It's really cool. It seems like it's everything somebody could want in life that enjoys that lifestyle and that hobby. So, what do you hunt?
If it moves, mainly deer and turkey and bear.
Yeah. I don't know if you would be able to make it over here. As far as like living over here.
All living over here.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. As soon as I seen the traffic, I was like,
There's some like there's a good amount of my customers that do hunt and hike and that kind of stuff, but just the overall culture over here is different. For a while, my fiance, she's was vegan, and every time I ate a piece of meat, I was getting a lecture. I just don't think you'd be able to tolerate that.
No, she's lucky she's not vegan.
Yeah. Sorry, you probably eat enough food for the both of you.
All 100%. She can slam some seafood though. I witnessed that firsthand. I was shocked.
I'll tell you what. When I lived in State College, there's nothing like the amount of homes. How far are you from State College?
Hour and a half.
Oh, you're that far?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. But just the restaurants up there, like you get massive amounts of food, and it costs very little compared to here. And like it was just for me, I went from maybe 160 pounds, and then I got up to 215 within like a year and a half. And it
just from the extra portions.
Yeah, and like of course, like I wanted to get there, but like just the readily available, just like home style food. There was this restaurant over near the Walmart on Atherton. It's not there anymore, but I would go there with my girlfriend at the time, and I would eat 2 meals. She would have a meal, and I would have like a shake with it, like a ice cream shake. And I think that the bill every time was like $20.
Yeah.
Like, how do you?
No, we love finding like little places like that.
Yeah.
So where I hunt in Maryland, there's this little gas station, and it looks like the most rundown beat place you've ever seen. But you walk in, and they have like a little deli and like a kitchen back there, and maybe like 3 tables for you to sit at. But it is amazing food, and there's a lot of it.
Yeah. In Maryland, huh?
I think we went there the other morning, and we got sausage and gravy over biscuits with home fries. And dude, these plates were like this. They were massive, and I think we paid like $25 for both of us.
And there's honestly nothing more romantic than eating at a gas station, right?
Exactly, 100%. And I just drug her 2 miles through the woods before that.
Well, if she's still
she
here,
puts
that's
up
a
with
good
a lot,
thing.
for real.
Yeah. Do you have any food preferences?
No, not really. I mean, I feel like what I like is what I stick to. I really don't try a lot of new stuff.
But like, do you eat chicken, venison, beef, turkey, eat it all?
A lot of turkey burger.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the new thing for me. I started eating that like maybe a year ago, and I've just been on it like solid pound.
Huh.
Turkey burger, jasmine rice. There is no other rice than jasmine rice because all the other rice sucks.
Yeah, I agree.
Brown rice sucks. It's brown. It's dry. It's
I
nasty.
I can't cook it the right way. No matter what, it's like hard, and I feel like it's gonna chip my tooth.
Yeah.
What's a day in the life of you eating?
If I'm actually in prep and I need to eat, probably like 2 packets of instant oatmeal in the morning, 4 or 5 eggs, and then like probably at least 3 meals of turkey burger and rice, and it probably 8 ounces a piece.
Okay.
About like that. And then I'll take those little, I forget what they're called, like Little Bens or something like that. They're packets of jasmine rice, but you throw them in the microwave for a minute and they're done.
Yeah,
it's
Uncle
perfect.
Ben's, I think.
Yeah, Uncle Ben's. I have a whole thing of one of those with each meal. And then if I have to, I'll eat some more eggs, but I'll put them with jasmine rice too. But probably around at least 6 meals a day.
That's a lot.
Sometimes 7.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about consolidating them and just eating bigger meals so you don't have to eat as frequent?
Sometimes, well, I will, but I'll put maybe like 2 or 3 meals in one big thing, and I'll eat on it. So I might eat 6 times a day, but I'm eating out of one container and eating a meal's worth out of it.
So you're just bringing a trough to work?
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. I at one point I was trying to eat like a large pizza every day just to keep my weight up because my body naturally wants to be 130 pounds. So when I was young and I got up to 215, which I know is very light to you, but for me it was very heavy. Like if I didn't eat, I would drop 10 pounds overnight, and it would happen often. So I would always try to force feed myself with like dirty food. You don't eat anything dirty?
Oh, 100%.
Well,
Yeah.
like I mean,
Yeah, I don't
all
eat
the
clean all
meals
the
you
time.
just said were all clean.
Yeah, that's if I'm like getting ready for a meet, if I'm like close to a meet, and
Okay.
I try to make sure everything's kind of like on point.
Okay.
But I mean, it just depends on my body weight too. Like if I'm falling behind, like I like to be right around that 300-pound mark when I compete. But if not, like I'm cool with being 285, 290. If I'm falling behind, I'll just start eating whatever I want.
Because you down
Just
in weight.
calorie intake for me.
Well, that's the best position you can be in, is to be under your weight class so you can eat into it. That's another thing I'd see. We get a lot of younger, newer lifters that are competing, and they're like, yeah, my coach has me cutting for my first meet. Why?
Yeah,
Like what?
I don't understand it. I would never cut for meat ever.
Your first
No
meet,
matter
you're
what.
not. The only thing I could ever consider is if you're at like a world meet, right? So
Yeah, like trying to break some kind of
it's a
total
big
record or
deal.
something,
You're gonna break an all-time world record, or you're gonna be like a world champion for that year. That's the only reason I could ever think it makes sense. I used to
agree.
compete at in 198s, but most of the time I was 202, so I wouldn't cut down. I would just compete in 220. That's fine. I'll just eat all the way in, and while you guys are trying to cut weight, I'll just lift more. So it just always made sense to me. So
I don't think I would ever cut for 275 because the last couple of years, all the weight classes from 198 to 308 and even super heavy, like this year, like Dan Bell did like 2,500 some pounds raw.
Yeah.
There is no manageable like record in any of these classes. They're all like super high, like ridiculous numbers for the people's body weight.
Is that what Dan Bell is? He's a 275?
No, he's a super heavy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he probably weighed like 400 pounds.
Yeah, I was gonna say he looks big. So when you were talking
he's
about
a large human
275s,
being.
I'm like, he
Yeah.
must be short or something. But yeah, it's cool. I heard he's gonna do like some gear lifting now.
Yeah, I think I seen him in a bench shirt. I think he's been messing around with the bench shirt.
It'd be cool to see somebody do something so significant in both categories, right? And kind of end the stigma and just kind of open up powerlifting.
I think
to
he did
everybody.
compete in gear
Yeah.
not long ago. Yeah, I think he tried to squat 1,200 pounds. I think he squatted
Sounds
11.
crazy.
I think he squatted 11. I think he might have missed 12.
That's wild.
Oh yeah, his belt like broke or something. Like he was almost down and his belt come on.
I guess that's what happens when you're 400 pounds.
That or have 1,200 pounds in your bag. One of the two.
All right. I think we kind of drilled you enough with the questions. If people want to follow you, is the best way on Instagram? That's where you're like most active.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And what's your handle?
It's unleash_the_Weist.
That's how you say your last name, Weist?
Weist.
Oh, I got it right.
Yeah.
Imagine that. I think everybody should follow you. Super exciting to watch, and I think that they can see your progressions and how you're doing things.